Hey guys, so it's Dami here, and I wanted to reintroduce myself to a lot of you guys, because a lot of you guys are new followers. So here is how Clientele Boosters came to be. So rewinding back about 8 years, I was 17 years old, I was about to finish up high school. And I was in year 12, and I was super sleep deprived all the time. My goal was pretty much basketball or die, right? So I was an athlete, and I came from a very strict household. My parents are very risk averse. They're not entrepreneurial at all. They just wanted me and my brother to do what we could at school, do the best that we could at school, be academically incredible and perform. For me, I wouldn't say I was below average, but I was maybe just a bit above average academically, except for English. I've been able to also, a strength of mine is I've always been able to speak really well. Even at the age of 10 onwards, that was a clear skill that I had that separated me above my peers. So I guess perhaps my verbal IQ perhaps might be high. But in terms of maths, in terms of science, in terms of many of the other things, they actually didn't even really interest me that much, ironically, until after high school. And that's when I started reading a lot more about history and science and psychology. But during school, it was never a strength of mine at all. I was always average, just below or just above average in those other things. But English, I was always able to be at the top, or at least near the top of my peers. So anyway, year 12, very sleep deprived, and I'm trying to make it with basketball. Basketball was a sport that when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, allowed me to get rid of a lot of my insecurities around my weight. I was a chubby kid around that age, and I brought a lot of insecurity, and I went from chubby to borderline anorexic in a year and a half. So I had some issues around that, and by 13, 14, basketball was the vehicle that allowed me to add muscle and be athletic and kind of find that middle ground. So, fast forward to year 12, I'm still trying to get a basketball scholarship in the States. I reach out to a bunch of different schools in America, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 schools. And when you're 17, everyone thinks they're a D1 prospect. I, unfortunately, was not a D1 prospect. I was a D2 prospect and a D3 prospect, but I wasn't a D1 prospect. Especially being from Australia, it's really difficult to get a scholarship unless you're already at the AIS, Australian Institute of Sport, or you're, FIBA level. Anyway, so 2 weeks before year 12 finishes, I am still reaching out, sending emails, and I get to the point where I'm like, I'm so desperate, I'm gonna start cold calling. I start cold calling basketball colleges in the US. Cold calling. I'm like, here's my basketball mixtape, and I would get my different coaches, I'd record videos of them talking on my behalf and how good of a point guard I was. It's a position in the sport. And it's not till 2 weeks before my year 12 exam, so 2 weeks before I finish high school, where I get a few interests and I get a few opportunities. Finally, but 2 weeks beforehand, right? I've given everything to this sport, emotionally, physically, mentally. Anyway, long story short, I finish high school and I end up in the States in 2018, and I'm able to play in Los Angeles and Sacramento in a top hundreds showcase. And again, kind of collect more interest, this, that, and the third. But again, my goal was Division 1. So I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm gonna come back to Australia. I'm gonna grind it out here, build more of a case, and then try to make the jump to NBL 1, NBL 1, then NBL, and then to the States. That was kind of the backup pathway that a lot of people had, or they'd go JUCO, which is junior college in the States, do JUCO for 2 years, then try to make the jump from JUCO to D1. So there's JUCO D1 schools, junior college D1 schools, junior college D2, etc. But I mainly had JUCO D2 and D3 schools, no D1. So I'm like, okay, cool. If I'm gonna come back to Australia, I need to make money. I need to make money to be able to afford, all this training into personal coaches, into the gym, into using a shooting machine where if a ball goes in the machine, it pops back out and you can just drain 1,000 shots a day. I want it to be on my Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to the GOAT, just on my, 1,000 shots a day kind of thing, right? And I come back from the States and one of my best friends just passes away at the start of the year. And I'm in a new relationship. So there's all this newness straight after high school. And I'm like, okay, I need money. Life is short and I need money. So I tried a bunch of different business models. At the end of year 12, I was looking at a lot of TED Talks. I just liked the way these guys thought. And nearly every Friday, if I wasn't going to a party, in the local area when I was 17, I would listen to TED Talks till I fell asleep, just out of pure curiosity. Anyway, I ended up trying some different business models. First year out of high school while I'm 18, coming back from the States. So I look at YouTube channels. I grew up playing guitar. I used to be super musical. This is before I started playing basketball. So I start, showing people how to play songs on guitar. I remember one of the songs I was showing people how to play, and I recorded it, but I didn't post this on YouTube. It was Goodbyes by Georgia Smith. Shout out to Georgia Smith, you're gorgeous. Anyway, if she's watching. But yeah, Goodbyes by Georgia Smith, and that was obviously an ode to my friend that passed away at 18, you know, and I was showing people how to play that song. I recorded it, I was gonna put it up on YouTube. Don't end up putting it up on YouTube. I think it was like in the archived playlist. But I also had Instagram pages where I was like, you know, faceless Instagram pages showing people how to do different things. You know how there was an era on YouTube where it's like the top 10 craziest moments, the top 10 best songs, or the top 10 songs that will give you nostalgia. I would find the songs, research them, find the names, create a compilation. That was actually really fun. I might get one of my team members, I might give them like a couple grand and go ahead and, with AI and run that up. That's actually a really good idea. Create 100 of those. But anyway, you guys can steal that idea, there you go. But so I created different things, and none of them, some of them actually got some traction, but they weren't making money. And I was like, I'm training tomorrow and I'm very broke. You know what I'm saying? So like, I need money to get to the petrol station, but then, or I didn't even have a car actually till I was 19. I need money to get to the petrol station, to get to the train station, to then take the PTV, and then I got to go visit my girlfriend who lives in the West in Yarraville, you know, all that. Very broke. I remember even being 18, having her buy the dinners for me, right? It's crazy how much time changes. It's crazy. Right? Damn, I can't believe I used to do that. But anyway, so eventually I get an ad from the infamous Ty Lopez, the goat of, you know, internet marketing in many ways. And I get his course, he pitches the course, and then I find his course for free on Reddit. One thing I've always had since I was 12, serious hustler. Serious hustler. Like I remember being in year 12 classrooms, being sleep deprived and not eating because I've been up from 4 a.m. and I had to get to the school area to, you know, make X amount of shots and like dunk. And if I didn't dunk, then I wouldn't leave and I'll be late to class. And I've always been an extremist in that way. Anyway, so I get the ad from Ty. I find his course for free. I'm injured at one point of early 2019. My brother and I go to a basketball tournament in Sydney. As we come back, I finish the course. I finished the whole 80, 90 video course in 2 days. Okay? I get off the plane. I don't even go home to say what's up to my parents. I drive straight to Ballin Road in Werribee. Shout out to Werribee, everyone that's from the west side, because the west side is the best side. And I'm pitching a bunch of places in Werribee. I still to this day remember pitching people and they're like, how'd you get up in this gym? I'm like, I took the elevator. They're like, you're not supposed to be here. I was like, I completely understand, but I knew how to sell a little bit at that point. I watched some YouTube videos. I was like, I completely understand, but I want to see if the owner's here because we can help them with marketing. I didn't even have a company name at the time. I didn't even have clientele boosters or whatever. I couldn't even leave them any real details. Anyway, long story short, after 3 months of no results and probably pitched 1,000 people face-to-face in cold calling, and I was extremely nervous about cold calling, I end up getting my first client, and that was from a guy that actually pitched me services, because he was one of those guys in like a shopping center that would pitch you like some sort of product or service. We kept in touch. He was a Nigerian guy. I'm not really on the best of terms with him now, ironically. Not because I've done anything to him, but because he took advantage of me when I was a bit older, which is okay. That's life. You learn when you're older. But anyway, so yeah, he ends up being my first client, and I took a picture, and then I got a second client a few weeks to a month later, and I'm like rolling, and then I lose both clients by the end of 2019. By the end of 2019, damn, I'm getting old. I'm joking. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Starbucks. I'm gonna get my whiteboard out. I was listening to Patrick Bet-David a lot. I'd watch his videos nearly every day. He taught me a lot of sales. Patrick Bet-David, Grant Cardone, a lot of those guys taught me a lot about sales. There's Ty Lopez as well. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna figure it out, how to go from zero to, you know, back to where I was at least and more. So it's the start of 2020, 0 clients, but I just go hard. Like, I just figure out what worked. I was looking at my behaviors, I track what worked, and I was like, okay, I convert more people when I approach them in person, whether it's a restaurant or it's a whatever, because I wasn't that good of a cold caller at the time. That's why I'm showing you guys, like, this is years in the making of skills developed in sales and communication. Like, I was still not petrified, but I was not good at cold calling. I was too slow. So I go back to different areas. I document different areas all across Australia, across Victoria, like Brighton, and Caroline Springs, Taylor's Lakes, etc. Go in person, wear my dad's suit, and I'm just pitching. 3 months later, my agency starts to really pick up momentum to the point where we're about to hit our first 10K a month in revenue, which when you're 20, by the way, just off straight hustle. I remember running ads, and my ads weren't even working, and I was the marketing guy. But we got so much momentum that the local newspaper actually featured me in the paper. That's how much momentum we were getting. And I ended up getting a politician as a client just before COVID. And I ended up helping her get reelected. Again, I'm a novice at ads. I'm just a social media guy at this point. COVID happens, March 2020. I lose probably 80% of my clients, except a few. I refuse to work for anyone else just so I can really say that I gave it my all. Fast forward to the end of the year. There's so much I can say about that in 1 year of 2020, the growth that I experienced. But fast forward, I ended up getting a job at an SEO agency.